But we move on, and I think, what can you say about yesterday's game, really? What can you say about it? Poor first half, really. I've just watched back kind of the extended highlights today of the game, because I wasn't able to catch the full game, fortunately or unfortunately. It kind of depends on how you look at it. But ultimately, I wasn't able to, watch the full game. I was out, so to see that we lost 2-1 in the last minute as well, it really was, a kick in the teeth. But at the same time, maybe it was a wake-up call. Maybe it was a wake-up call to a lot of fans out there who, genuinely believed we could, potentially make a title challenge this season. I mean, if you thought that, then you are genuinely deluded. But at the same time, I think a lot of fans after that Chelsea game were very, very positive, which is great. But some were getting a bit too carried away. And it showed through, really. And, what we showed today was not good enough in the slightest. Yesterday, was not good enough in the slightest. And even though probably one of the only positives was that Daniel James did get his goal, his second goal of the season, ultimately we weren't good enough. And it's really disappointing because, at home to Crystal Palace, you'd at least be expecting a decent result. Or at least a draw out of that game, at least. Even a draw's not good enough for Man United standards. But to lose it in the last minute is just sickening, really is. Welcome TTX, welcome Rashford. Appreciate you joining me. Thank you for joining me on the stream. TTX says, Jesus, what a shambles that was. It was a shambles. I couldn't put it better myself, mate. I really couldn't. It was just an absolute shambles from start to finish. It was... I mean, there was just no end product once again. There's no end product. No quality going forward. And I feel like, the story of Manchester United is that we get into good areas. We have fast players going forward like Rashford and Martial who do some good things. But ultimately, when they get to that edge of the box or when they get into the box, if you can't finish, there's no point. There is no point doing all that fancy stuff. So, at the same time, it's good to see them, making chances, but if you can't put them away, there's no point, is there? Welcome, Matthew. Welcome, Man United fans. Dan, thanks for joining. Matthew says, very disappointing result. I totally agree. Man United fans says, we need to be clinical. Yep, exactly. That's what I was just saying. We need to be clinical. Even against the smaller teams like Crystal Palace, where we might get more chances than we would against Liverpool or any other teams in the top six. We need to be clinical because Crystal Palace aren't the worst team in the world. They can score goals, even if they are away from home at Old Trafford. So it's really disappointing to see that we missed, quite a few gilt-edged opportunities, and we got punished for our mistakes. Rashi says, first of all, big congrats to Crystal Palace. Their game was simply masterclass for reading our mistakes and take it as an opportunity. Exactly, look, they took their opportunities. They did. All of their kind of shots on goal went in. I would say they only really had, 3 or 4 shots on goal in the whole match. I just think... they took their opportunities, and we gave them a few opportunities in that game, but the 2 real clear-cut ones, they took them, and, fair play to them. When you do go away to a top 6 side, you have to do that, you have to be clinical, and they were, so I totally agree with you, Rashford. We do need to give Crystal Palace credit, because they had a decent game plan, they stuck to their game plan, and they did it, and... by hook or by crook, they got over the line as well. And that is going to be a massive result for them. They'll probably lose next week anyway, but it'll be a massive result for them in the context of the season, I believe. TTX says, Ole has to take the blame for this one. Tactically beaten by Hodgson. Plays Lingard just because he runs about. I didn't agree with playing Jesse Lingard, to be honest. Really, I didn't fully agree with playing Daniel James from the start. I actually thought that Daniel James was probably a bit better from the bench. Even though he did get his goal, I think he's much better when he's running at tired legs. I'm not sure whether he realistically has the quality to be starting for Manchester United, but he's scored 2 goals this season, so I guess I'll let that slide. But at the same time, it's just really disappointing because, as I said, Crystal Palace had a game plan. They stuck to their game plan to sit deep, hit us on the counter-attack, and take the chances when they came to them, and they did that, and you can't fault them, you really can't. Man United fan says Crystal Palace beat us at home for the first time in Premier League history. Yep, another record breaker for Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson left. I guess that's the only positive. It's not really a positive, but you know what I mean. It's frustrating really, but as I said, it might give a few Man United fans a bit of a kind of a wake-up call, a bit of a reality check, because a lot of people were getting a bit carried away after the Chelsea result, and the Wolves result kind of brought a few people down, but now, after this result, a lot of people have been brought crashing down to earth, and that's football in the end of the day, and I think it's better for our fan base not to be, obviously don't be really negative, of course. I've seen a lot of people saying, Soskjaer needs to go, Soskjaer is out of his depth, and he may be, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But at the same time, I feel like some people are just getting too carried away, getting a bit cocky almost, and when you get cocky, pride always comes before a fall, so... I mean, in some ways, looking back at what the United fans were doing before the game, you could see this sort of result coming. TTX says, how is Lingard and Mata better than Gomez? Exactly. I don't understand why Gomez doesn't get into the team. I think Gomez is actually a really, really good talent. And as you say there, TTX, I don't think he would do a worse job. I really don't. I don't see how he would. I think he would actually be more hungry to be in the team. And, players all for the team. And I think Lingard, whilst he's trying, he's just not good enough, is he, really? I think he'd be all right as a squad player, potentially, coming off from the bench. But to start him, I don't agree with that at all. I do not agree with that at all. Rash says you can't take 73% of ball possession and one more pass and yet not much shots on target and shots outside the box. Sorry, we don't need that ball possession. We need goals. I think that's a really good point. That was probably one of the main problems we had under Ole Gunnar Soskjaer, of course, before he got sacked. We at home we had 60-70% of possession every single time without fail, but we weren't scoring goals. And this sort of result, this sort of performance as well, it has been the same for the last kind of 3 or 4 seasons. We've had kind of 3 or 4 of these games a season where we've had possession, we've created chances, but the other team's just been a lot more clinical, and it's really frustrating from a United fans' point of view that these sort of performances are still reoccurring, even when we've got rid of a lot of the players that were there. I mean, there's still a lot of the players lingering, but at the same time, it's frustrating when we keep seeing the same thing come back over and over again, season after season. I do back Soskjaer. I do back Soskjaer to be all right. I do still back him. I think just because he did lose one game, he is still learning in the game, and I think we do have to give him time, in my opinion. Obviously, you guys might not agree with me, but at the same time, I do think Soskjaer needs a bit of time, and I'm willing to give him this season. I am willing to give him this season. So I think Soskjaer did make a lot of mistakes yesterday, but at the same time, as long as he learns from his mistakes, it'll be alright. But if he doesn't, I think it could be very, very difficult for him this season. Welcome Red Devil Studio, thanks for joining. Make sure you do check out his channel if you haven't already. Really, really good stuff on there. He says, is it mentality? Do we switch off against teams that we should beat? I mean, it could be a mentality issue. I think there has been a lot of times over the years, well, since Alex Ferguson left anyway, where we've gone up against, these smaller teams at Old Trafford, and we've struggled. I mean, Burnley, the last 2 times against Burnley, we've drawn 2-2. How can that be right? I mean, they're a decent side, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it just seems like the Burnley game just continues to be a deja vu with Manchester United, and it seems to creep into these other games against sides like Crystal Palace's, like Leicester's, like Everton's, like Burnley's, who are decent defensively and they can cause a few problems going forward. We just can't deal with it, and it's almost like we find it very, very hard to play against teams that sit really deep. We want teams to come at us so that we can counter them. If a team sits deep, they're going to cause us a lot of problems, and that's what Crystal Palace did, and it caused us a lot of problems. So I think we do need to have a plan B. We can't just, continue to play on the counter-attack. Yes, in the big games, I don't mind it, but at the same time, you need to have a plan B for when you're playing smaller teams. They're going to set up really compact to the back. Welcome Dazza as well, welcome Nick, thanks for joining, really appreciate it. TTX says we're playing counter-attacking football. I think we do suit playing counter-attacking football, and that is why, when the opposition doesn't allow us to play counter-attacking football, we struggle. We really do struggle. When a team sits deep, we are struggling, and unfortunately, as a big side, you are going to get a lot of teams that are going to sit deep and frustrate you, and if you can't break them down, then you're going to struggle. You are going to struggle. So that is the one worry for me, really, is that we need a plan B, and hopefully we are trying to develop a plan B for future games, because if we aren't, I do worry for us this season. Tell us this afternoon, or are you taking calls, Kieran? Poor game. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to take calls today. I'm not sure how long this stream's going to go on for, but I don't think I'll be able to take calls right now. I don't think the software or anything like that is working, unfortunately, which is really annoying. But of course, for the next one, I'll get you on. Well, that is for I don't know what the next one's going to be. It might be a bit of different content for you guys as well. But as you can tell by my voice, I've kind of lost my voice a bit. It wasn't because I was shouting at the TV yesterday or anything like that, but it's just because I've got a bit of a sore throat at the moment. But still want to share my thoughts on the game with you guys. Man United fans says, do you think we should keep Rashford to be our pen taker, or should we give it to Martial? I think, to be honest with you, Pogba and Rashford have kind of been caught up in this kind of penalty drama that we saw last Monday. And I feel like maybe giving it to Martial would be our best bet. He is someone who actually, when he has taken penalties for us, he's been really, really clinical, really, really consistent as well. So I wouldn't mind seeing Anthony Martial being a penalty taker, at least being given a go as the penalty taker. I mean, could he really do worse than Pogba or Rashford? I think Rashford was unlucky to miss his penalty only a few inches inside, and that would have been a really, really good penalty. Probably the perfect penalty. But players miss penalties. It's that sort of thing does happen in the game, and it's unfortunate. Obviously, that it's happened twice in a row. But I do think we should either stick with Rashford or we should give it to Martial, in my opinion. Welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining, Nick. Really appreciate it. Red Old Shoe says Pookie of Norwich has more goals than our front three. I mean, he's had a brilliant start to the season, to be fair to him. Unlucky not to get the win. But yeah, it's worrying, really. Rashford and Martial, they did have 4 goals between them after the first 2 games. But I was really backing them in this game. I thought this was a game where they could really, come into their own and, score a few goals. But Crystal Palace showed up. They did really well, and we just didn't take our chances. I think Rashford and Martial did have a few chances. I mean, arguably the refereeing yesterday was pretty poor, and potentially we could have had a few more penalties. Martial clearly brought down in the box. Clearly ridiculous. But at the same time, we should have enough to beat Crystal Palace. It doesn't matter whether we should have been given 3 or 4 penalties. We should have enough to be beating Crystal Palace at home. I'm sorry. Red Old Shoes says, lastly, the big worry is that we have no impact sub-squad depth. Now Shaw and Martial are injured. We just seem to be playing the same because we have no one to change things. Dare I say Fellaini? Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously we've got rid of Marouane Fellaini now. No longer part of the team, and I think he would have been a bit of a plan B, of course, even though he's not. He's kind of the poster boy for shocking football at Manchester United. But at the same time, stick him up front, causing problems in the box. I didn't mind that. I didn't really mind that at the time, and I thought he was an alright plan B. But obviously he's left now, and we don't have a plan B off the bench. Now when we're looking for subs off the bench, we're looking for Juan Mata and Mason Greenwood. Are they realistically good enough to make a really big impact off the bench? I'm not sure. I mean, I back them all the way, obviously. I back Greenwood, back Mata, back Pereira as well. He usually comes off the bench. But I don't think they're going to have the best impact. I don't. And I hope they prove me wrong. But I just think we don't have the... Yeah, we just don't have the impact off the bench, unfortunately. Welcome RB Comms, thanks for joining, mate, really appreciate it. By the way, guys, please leave a like if you haven't already, that'd be absolutely fantastic. He says, if Pogba's going to play going to get stick for missing a pen, Rashford needs to get stick. Well, look, that's the thing, Pogba obviously copped a lot of stick after he missed his penalty against Wolves. And I think Rashford, I mean, I don't think it's really constructive to kind of, give people stick for missing penalties, but at the same time, I don't agree with I don't agree with kind of giving stick to Pogba and not giving stick to anyone else. But at the same time, I mean, if I had it my way, I'd be like, what, people miss penalties, shit happens. But at the same time, Rashford, I think did get off a bit lightly for missing that pen, but we go again. Page 1 of the stream, mate, thanks for joining. He says that was a terrible match for Manchester United. Couldn't agree more. I mean, even that simple sentence just summed it up, really. Just summed it up. Man United fan that says, keep the good content up, mate. Really enjoy watching. Give me your thoughts. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate it. Make sure you do check out Man United Fan Stand as well. Really, really good channel. So make sure you do check it out if you haven't already. Nick says Pookie will not be top scorer. No, I don't think he will, but I think he's having a really, really good run at the moment. And as long as he's having a good run, I think Norwich could do alright. But whether he's going to be able to keep that up throughout the season, I'm not too sure. Della says, the thing is, Rob, Pogba went for power instead of placement in his pen. Rash was unlucky with his pen. It hit the inside of the post. I think in some ways you could argue that Rash's penalty was a bit more unlucky than Pogba's penalty. But at the same time, it doesn't really mean diddly, does it? Because they both missed. Rashford says Ole has no excuse for not playing Gomez. He's an absolute baller, mate. The guy spent so many days off to Ronaldinho's house to learn from him. Well, I hope that is the case. But I think I think Gomez, we should give him a chance. Why not? Would he realistically do any worse than Jesse Lingard? I don't think so. I don't think he'd do any worse. So, yeah, it's one for Soskjaer, and I hope he does. I hope we do see Gomez. Maybe he's looking to potentially kind of bed him into the squad with some Carabao Cup games. But at the same time, I think, why not throw him in there? Why not give him a start against Southampton, or bring him off the bench or something? Because I think actually out of the players we saw in pre-season, Gomez was definitely one of the shining lights. So why not give him a chance? Why not? Dazza says there's a lot of Pogba haters at United, which shouldn't happen. Respect players because they respect the fans. Exactly. And Pogba is one of our best players, if not the best player we've got at the club. I don't understand why fans are really hating on him. I don't understand it. But everyone has their opinion, and they're entitled to their opinion at the end of the day, as long as it doesn't get abusive, of course. Rashi says, Daz, now, yeah, Rashi should take pens, but his pens are also power, mate. That's just the keeper getting wrong. Andres Pereira is a specialist dead ball taker. I mean, one thing about dead balls, of course, is free kicks as well, not just penalties. And our free kicks are absolutely shocking. Honestly, I can't remember the last time we put a threatening ball into the box, let alone scored a goal from a free kick. It's mental how we have Rashford on free kicks, and I'm afraid he's like that guy who he goes for power and he scores like 1 in 50 free kicks he takes. You want someone who's taking free kicks, who's a dead ball specialist, someone who can score, maybe 1 in 10 free kicks they take. It's just so frustrating, really, to see Rashford taking free kicks. Even Pogba yesterday, he got a bit closer than Rashford at least, but at the same time, we don't have a dead ball specialist, and that is why, someone like a Bruno Fernandes or a Christian Eriksen would have been such a good signing for us to bring in, because they're not only another creative midfielder to play alongside Paul Pogba, but they're a dead ball specialist, and we need a dead ball specialist. We've got no one in that team who can whip in a really quality ball. We've got no one. Frustrating. Welcome United 2, thanks for joining, mate, really appreciate it. He says, I beg Jones to stay away from Harry. Yeah, I know. I mean, hopefully he doesn't rub off on him, but to be fair, I thought Harry Maguire was alright yesterday. It was really Lindelof missing that header. I mean, Lindelof in the air is woeful, really is, and I think we all know that is one of the biggest weaknesses of his game is playing in the air. So I do think the partnership between Lindelof and Maguire is going to be a good partnership this season, but I think as long as we stay away from those sort of positions where Lindelof's the one who's having to meet the ball in the air, as long as Maguire is the one who's meeting the ball in the air, I think we'll be fine. RB comes as that midfield is mid-table standard without Pogba. I totally agree with you, mate. I totally agree with you. If Pogba leaves, we're in massive, massive trouble. And that's why, so many United fans were crying out for a creative midfielder to come in, just in case Pogba left, because there are definitely rumours, and obviously there's still another week left until the transfer window in Europe closes. So Pogba could still leave. You never know. I mean, I doubt it, but he could still leave. And if he does leave, we're left without a lot of decent options in midfield. We're probably going to have to play Fred in there, and it's not going to look good for us if that's the case. So ultimately, I say that with a smile, but at the same time, it does worry me quite a lot if Pogba does decide to leave. And to be honest with you, I don't see Pogba being here next season. I really don't. So I think we'd have to invest. And if we don't invest, then we'll pay the price. We will pay the price. Dada says that midfield is very weak, Ayew. Fernandes deal went on for ages, but of course the board won't finish the deals in time as usual. Total incompetence. TTX is we've got a very inexperienced manager who can't attract players. We've got a bit of that part yesterday. Experience shows. Credit to Roy Hodgson. Exactly. I mean, he knew what was going to frustrate us. He knew how to set up, and he set up deep, and he stopped us from counter-attacking. And you have to say fair play to them. You know, his strikers, Jordan Ayew and Van-arnholt, they took their chances and they got a bit of luck in the game. But, you know, if you are going to, win these sorts of games, you do need a bit of luck. No, so you can't really get on their back for that. You know, it's not their fault. Nearly knocked the mic off the stand there. United says sell Jones, please, Ollie. Well, I think potentially Jones is someone who's going to be for the chop. I mean, I feel like Solskjaer's going to want to play Lindelof and Maguire as a centre-back partnership, and I think if Phil Jones realises that, I think he'll leave himself. I don't see him staying at Manchester United if he's not going to get first-team football week in, week out. Excuse me, Man Utd fans says Pogba needs to play with a world-class central midfielder like Bruno Fernandes. Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, it was embarrassing. It really was embarrassing to concede so late on as well. I could not believe it. I really could not believe it, to be honest with you. Douglas says if United can't win games like this, then we're in for a very long season. Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Obviously, it is one game and things can change. But at the same time, do I see them changing drastically over the course of the season? I'm not sure that I do. Rashford said, agreed, Daz. A transfer window. The fans give danger alerts about our midfielder. We give our true thoughts and the club ignored us. Here's how they could have listened to the fans. Well, that's what I don't understand as well. I really don't understand how they don't listen to the fans. Obviously, if they'd actually just gone onto social media, they would have seen that everyone was begging for a player. And obviously, they came out afterwards and say you can't just buy players because everyone on social media is so begging for them. But at the same time, can the club not see how can the club not see the weaknesses and the fans can? Are we watching different games? TTX is who's going to buy Jones, plus he's on 130k a week, incompetent board again. That's a very, very good point because the club actually has to buy him. Well, just another one of the problems. Dallas says conceding goals late on just shows how one small lapse of concentration in defence can cost you big time. Exactly. And if you're going to challenge for the top four, you've got to keep those lapses of concentration down to the minimum. You have to play to the whistle. And we didn't do that. And we got punished. But anyway, guys, I'm going to end it here. My voice is starting to get a bit sore. But thank you very much to everyone who has tuned in. Really appreciate it. Really poor result. Really poor performance. I'm hoping that the next video I do, I'm a bit more upbeat. And hopefully my voice is fine. And I'll be a bit more happier. But you know what? We go into the next game against Southampton. Really, we have to win that game to give us a bit of momentum going into the international break. But it's going to be a tough test. The early kickoff is never straightforward. And after what happened today, there's not really much evidence that we're going to stroll that game at all. So, yeah, looking forward to United's next game. Going to have to step it up. Really are going to have to step it up. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a good rest of the weekend. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. And see you guys next time.